Hello there, and thanks for joining me. I'm digital artist Aaron Rutten, and in this video, I'm going to answer a question that I get a lot, and that is, where do I get my ideas? So in my opinion, the problem is not that it's difficult to come up with ideas. It's that you're probably doing a very poor job of recording and processing your everyday thoughts into ideas. I'm willing to bet that you have ideas pop into your head all the time, but you either dismiss them, you don't elaborate on them, or even worse, you don't write them down. You just shouldn't have a lack of ideas. You should have an excess. You should be able to pick and choose from a large list based on how you feel. So in this video, I'm going to share my workflow for generating ideas, processing ideas, recording ideas, and executing ideas into finished work. So I've broken down this workflow into a few different sections. The first section is the purpose of your idea. Art is an expression of the artist. What do you want to express? Is it how you feel about yourself or a specific subject? Is it how you've reimagined something that already exists? Do you want to express how you've changed the meaning of something? Do you want to make someone feel a certain way by looking at your work? Do you want to impress or inspire others? Do you want to show how you can capture the likeness of a person, a place, or an object? These are all things to consider before you start formulating your ideas. You need to be able to understand why you want to make art and what kind of art you want to make. I think that'll make it easier for your brain to start generating ideas. So then moving on to the next step, we want to be thinking. We want to be using our brains. I know that sounds really obvious, but it's very important. And thinking is a little more in-depth than just sitting here going, For example, you need to be spending the time to just sit and think, and you need to do it at a time when you don't have to focus on anything else that's important. For example, when you're taking a shower, or you're going to the bathroom, or you're eating or brushing your teeth. When you're riding on the bus, when you have absolutely nothing to do but sit and stare, think. If you're not already, be more aware of the world around you. If you think you're already aware, you're not. You need to dig deeper into the meaning of life, and you need to ponder your own existence. You need to be introspective and think about who you are and who you want to be. You need to think about how you perceive the world around you, how the world is. You need to imagine how the world could be. You need to be inspired by the world around you. Now, inspiration is kind of a whole separate subject. I have a video you can watch about that. So once we've generated some raw ideas, we need to process them. So we start with a raw concept. Let's say I'm going to make a shirt that's about digital art. That's my general concept. So how do I turn that concept of a word and a shirt into something visual that I can execute into an idea? I need to process it into something a little more than just a short description. You want to start very basic. If all you have is a word, turn a word into a sentence. If all you have is a sentence to describe your idea, turn that sentence into a paragraph. Visualize those details in your mind. And don't dismiss ideas, because sometimes a bad idea can turn into a good idea once you've had time to work out the details. And don't talk yourself out of an idea because it sounds too difficult, because you may feel more confident later. Now, the most important step, and that is recording. You can write it down, you can sketch it. However you prefer to work, just make sure that you record the idea and you record it in enough detail to where you'll be able to understand it later. If you're writing, create a bullet point list and elaborate on each point in that list. If you need to, make sub-bullet points that go even more in depth into each of those elements of your idea. If you prefer to work visually, then you can sketch out your idea using a rough sketch with basic primitive shapes, and then just refine your sketch, adding more and more detail each time until you have a sketch that represents the idea that you want to create. If you happen to have ideas while you're in the middle of doing something else, take a short break if possible and record your thoughts. If it's not possible to take a break, then try to at least write down a few words quickly that describe your idea so that you can flesh it out later. The next step is refining. Each idea should be refined before it can be used to create something. Otherwise, you'll risk leaving out an important detail. Fill in all of the missing details and get the idea as complete as possible. There will be some room to elaborate more while you're creating your work, so you'll have an opportunity to add and change things during your creation process. There may be some gaps that cannot be filled by imagination alone. For example, you may need to reference an image or multiple images, or maybe even read about your subjects to gain a deeper understanding of what you're trying to create. And take your time and don't rush. It's worth it to polish your idea so that it's as effective as possible when you turn it into work. The next part of the workflow is sorting your ideas. It's okay to have a lot of ideas, but you need to make sure that you sort them once you've accumulated a lot of ideas. Compare your ideas to one another and see which ones are similar enough to fit into the same category. Sorting your ideas will not only make it easier to locate specific ideas, it'll also make it easier to choose an idea to work on based on how you feel at the time. It's easy for good ideas to get buried in a list of ideas that aren't as interesting to you, so you may want to even make a separate category for good ideas so that they're really easy to find. And once you've generated some ideas and sorted them, the next step is then kind of prioritizing your ideas so that you know what you're going to work on. When it comes time to select an idea, you can prioritize your ideas in several different ways. For example, you could prioritize based on how you feel at the time. What do you feel like painting right now? Choosing a category of ideas can be a great starting point for this. In other cases, you might prioritize your ideas based on the ones that'll have the most impact on your audience. You might also want to choose based on how easy the idea is to execute. For example, you might have a more productive day if you can complete several easy works rather than one difficult one. So now moving on to one of the final steps, and that is executing the idea and turning it into something creative. Ideas have an expiration date. Even if the idea is written down or sketched out in detail, you may over time lose your motivation and inspiration, or maybe even forget some of the key details about the piece. What good is an idea if you forget why you wanted to make it in the first place? At this point, you should have plenty of ideas to choose from, they should be very well sorted, and you should be able to easily pick out an idea and work on it. But that's not the last step in this workflow. The last step is archiving. Don't throw away your ideas once you're done with them. Archive them. If you took the time to write a script, maybe it could be useful later for another project. Archiving can also be useful so that you don't accidentally repeat an idea because you forgot you already used it in a previous work. Happens to me all the time. I have to look back and go, gee, I've made 1,000 videos. Did I make one about that particular subject? Oh, I guess I did, so I'm not going to waste my time making another video about that. A great way to archive your ideas is just to move them to a different category for completed ideas. So there you go. Those are my tips for how to generate, process, and eventually execute your ideas. If you found this information helpful, take a quick second to like this video. And if you're new to my channel, I'd love to have you subscribe. I have a lot more videos for digital artists like you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.